Now, did your parents, were they entrepreneurs or just people that had jobs?
Nah, they weren't entrepreneurial. I didn't get it from my parents, that's for sure. I've thought about that a lot actually. Yeah, neither of them they're both pretty by the book. So yeah, kind of interesting how that works out.
And so, what kind of kid were you growing up? I mean, were you a bad kid, a good kid, good
I
grades,
wasn't
bad
I
grades?
wasn't bad, but I was very like I didn't like authority, and I mean, who does as a kid? But also, I just like especially didn't, you know. And I was just very like alternative in terms of like music, clothes, thinking. Like I didn't like really fit in too much in like middle school or like high school. Like it was great, it was fun, but like I wouldn't say I was like a mainstream kind of like person, you know. And so like I've kind of just carried that with me like my whole life, you know. So yeah, that's probably how I would define my childhood. Very like just thinking differently, you know.
Yeah, I love asking that question because I noticed that probably 80-90% of the people that I interview, which I only interview people that have been pretty successful in their fields, and so you're talking, the top 1% of America is who I'm interviewing, and the truth, or actually even across the world. And it's interesting because most of these people are college dropouts. They
Mm.
were, not the best students in school. They got in a little bit of trouble. They were maybe not that mainstream kid. They were a little bit feisty. They a little bit
Yeah,
went against the grain. They didn't like
yeah,
authority. And
right.
so these are, I noticed this because I think that if somebody's watching right now or listening on iTunes or Spotify, or they're watching on YouTube right now, they they're usually those people that are a little bit the same. They're a little bit feisty,
Yeah,
they're a little bit against the grain, and maybe that could be a clue to people that are watching or listening, is that if you are so rules based in your life, it's going to be a lot more difficult, I believe, to invent something or create
oh yeah.
something or be a business owner or be an entrepreneur, because you can't fall in line all the time. I was just talking. I do a Wealth on the Beach coaching program every Wednesday morning, and I was coaching some guys this morning, and they were and I told them, I said, I think what happened in my business and why we built an organization of 1,500 agents, 52 offices, and had some decent successes because I built leaders. I didn't tell you all the answers. I didn't go around just trying to make sure I told everybody what to do. I allowed people to become leaders, and I pushed them to be leaders. I inspired them to be leaders. I made sure that they went out and got the information on their own, that they didn't need me. I wanted to teach you the fundamentals, but ultimately I wanted you to go out and be a leader, and you go out and fly high. And so, does that
Yeah.
sound a little bit like maybe your entrepreneurial journey? Or, I mean, you had to figure out a lot of things by yourself, right?
Yeah, but I mean, either you're okay with that or you're not. Like, there's a certain like uncomfortableness that comes with the game when you're setting out on your own, as you know, as every entrepreneur knows. And like, some people just don't like that, and like they want to just be normal and like follow the rules. And honestly, that's fine. I mean, you can do really well just following a normal path in life. Like sometimes it's like, it's almost like easier. It's a lot easier. But what you won't get is you won't get any sort of edge, right? You won't be able to really carve out anything different. And that is the what I think drives a lot of entrepreneurs is they just want to take control. They just want to have something different that they can, you know, uh, affect the outcome of, that they can mold, that they can, they want a life that they're basically more in control of. And that does come with risk. It does come with a big level of being uncomfortable. For many entrepreneurs, it's worth it. It's worth the trade-off. So I don't really judge people who like aren't entrepreneurial. I really don't think it's for everyone. But if it's for you, there's no denying it. That's the thing I learned is like, because I've gone in and out. Like I've been an entrepreneur, and then I've also just like worked for like the man, like, and like I've done both, and like there's pros and cons to both. Don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, if you have like that entrepreneurial drive in you, either you have it or you don't. And if you have it, like there's really it'll never go away. So if you're not an entrepreneur and you have that, you're going to be upset unless basically building something for yourself. I think so.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% on board with what you're saying. I mean, I just think that or people that go into business or they want to be an entrepreneur, they make that decision. They have to be very aware that there's certain things that they're going to have to do that not just a job is, because a job's, you show up
Right.
to the job, they tell you what to do, and that's cool. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I mean,
No.
obviously,
Yeah.
we all have support. We all have people that help us that actually have, that they have a job. So obviously,
Right.
there's got to be people in the world. Not everybody could be an entrepreneur, but when you make that decision, you got to be prepared to really reach out, ask people for help, find the information yourself. We're talking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until the job gets done. I mean, that to me,
Yeah.
that's the way I always played the game, because ultimately I was fighting for the freedom. And I don't know about you,
Right.
but I was
Yeah.
fighting
Oh
for
yeah.
the freedom. I didn't want anybody to have their thumb on me telling me
Yeah.
when I can pee. You know what I mean? Like, it ain't
Yeah.
happening. I ain't
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you
Yeah.
think about that?
Yeah, I mean, like, but let's be honest about the freedom, because you do have your own freedom for sure. But you've also created, I don't want to call it a prison, but like you've created something now that you're driven by yourself, which is awesome. But if you don't keep driving, the car doesn't just keep going straight forever, right? Like you have to keep that gas pedal pressed, and I think that's I think a lot of people can't understand how you can kind of always press on the gas pedal all the time. But that is definitely what you have to do if you're an entrepreneur. And again, either you have it or you don't. If you have it, you have no problem basically being on in go mode basically all the time. And that's just the life we chose, man.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, we got to talk, because Wealth on the Beach really was kind of put together for this notion that, we don't have to do that all the time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I built a business that literally at 28, completely financially independent. And then it's been running on its own for the last, you're talking 20 years now. This thing has been on autopilot. And again, I do it. I
Yeah.
work the business when I can. I don't really do a whole lot anymore, but I work the business only because it gives me purpose. But the truth
Yes.
is, if I
Yes.
never worked a day in my life from probably even the age of 25, I would have made
Yeah.
a really nice living
Yeah.
without having to get out of bed. So it's kind of like with the vacation rentals. Obviously, there's maintenance on that stuff. You got to kind of watch it. And of course, if you want the income to grow. So I think it's more of like, because I get what you're saying, but the truth is, at least my reality, my truth is that you could actually build a business if you do it the right way, where you can duplicate it with lots and lots of other people that are also trying to get to where you're at. And that all because people inevitably will work harder for themselves than they do for someone else. So if they're
Yeah.
the leader, so I built a lot of different franchises, so they're very motivated to grow theirs to a certain level that gives them freedom. And as they
Yeah.
do that, that continues my passive income coming in, because I get percentages off of those franchises. And so the point I'm trying to make is that, man, I mean, if anything, whether it be, the vinyl business or websites or whatever, I mean, you can automate that, duplicate it, hire people, recruit people that give them interest in what you're doing. Next thing you know, they're on their own, building their own stuff, but you might be able to get a little percentage of that. Ultimately, that's what has allowed my income to be passive for now 20 plus years. I mean, really almost 25 probably, but at a higher
Yeah.
level since I was 28. So again, I get what you're saying, but I just wanted to
No,
interject that because that's why I did it.
yeah. I mean, it's funny because, like, you're absolutely right. I mean, you can definitely at any time, dial back and let the passive nature of what you've built up take over. But like, I think what you said about purpose is really important, because like most entrepreneurs never really stop, right? Like you're right. Like I could stop working for like, a year and still make money. But what would I do with my time? Like, why? Like, what else would I do? Just sit on a beach? Like, no. I love the beach. Don't get me wrong. So I know you do. It's the name of the podcast. But like, there's just something like bigger driving you, and it's like I would just get bored. Like I would,
So,
you
so
know what I
what
mean? Like
drives you,
it's.
man? So what is it that really, like, what is that drive inside of you? What's driving you?
I mean, for me, it's like understanding, and for myself, interesting things that are happening in the world, and relaying what I've learned to an audience of, now we're up to 75,000 people. And that's it. I mean, it's basically like alternative investing media is basically the company we're building. And I think of it like alternative thinking, right? Like just different ways of thinking about markets that no one thinks about, opportunities that no one thinks about, under discussed countries to invest in, under discussed alternative investments. And I don't go into this stuff knowing everything about all of it, right? Like that's not like how any of this works. Like rather, I basically just, I set out to learn, and I teach people what I've learned and take them along for the ride. And that's what drives me. And there's an endless supply of things to learn and think about and talk about and write about in the world. And so that's what drives me.
Thank you for watching our short clips on Alonzo Academy. If you'd like to watch the next short clip, click here. If you'd like to watch the entire podcast, click here.